Today's topic, if you saw the flyer, baby Babble, cracking the code of kid language. So you all might hear some little babbling in the background because my newest addition is joining us today. He's right here in my lap. I thought I had him situated, asleep, and content, but it looks like he wanted to make a guest appearance. So if you hear some babble, that's him in the background. Speech development, when parents should be concerned, not just looking for whether a child talks or not, but it's more about how they communicate. Yes. And you are welcome, Dr. Tongular Kiner.
I am Dr. Tongular Kiner, and we're not going to prolong the time. We're going to get into it. And so I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to talk about the myth about talking. And so today we're going to talk about really quickly, what is talking, what is communication versus talking, the building blocks of communication, who do I contact, and then questions and answers if there may be any. So let's take a look. What is talking? I tried to come up with the most simplistic form or definition. And so simply put, talking is the ability to verbally communicate out loud to express feelings, emotions, wants, and needs. Did you know that most children begin talking at 12 months of age? That the length of a child's utterance should correlate to their chronological age up until the age of 5. So therefore, a 2-year-old should at least be putting 2 words together. A 3-year-old, 3 words. They can do more, but if they're doing less, parents, that is a need for concern. By age 2, a child should have a vocabulary of at least 50 words, and words that you should be able to identify and distinguish. And then by age 1, they should be able to imitate sounds and actions heard by performed by you. So then what is communication? Well, communication is the exchange of information to convey meaning. It could be verbal, it could be visual, it could be gestural or tactile. So what do you mean, Tongular? So then it could be whatever you hear, it could be whatever you say, it could be whatever you express with your body language or whatever you feel. That's how we understand meaning, but that's also how we convey meaning. It takes a listener and a speaker to actually communicate. But not all communication, as you can see, is verbal, meaning not all communication involves talking. So here's my mantra. Talking is overrated. I have so many parents, and I have some other speech therapists on, who come to us and say, well, my child is not talking. My first question is, but do they communicate with you? How do you know what they need? How do you know what they want? How do you know if they're feeling sick? Because if you're able to distinguish that information, then the key is your child has communication skills, but their talking may be delayed. We don't hang our hat always on just the ability to talk. Now, if a child is not talking, that is a red flag. Well, we definitely want to make sure first that they're able to communicate, because everyone deserves the right to communicate. It's a basic human need. So let's talk a little bit about the building blocks of communication. I'm sorry. Prelinguistic communication skills form the foundation for talking and understanding language. This is why this is so important for all of you all, especially those who are parents on the line. Because if you don't have these first building blocks, then talking and being able to process information is a long way off. We have to get through these prerequisite skills, we call them, in order for a child to be able to communicate. They are a set of skills children use to communicate without using words. Prelinguistic communication includes skills such as gestures, joint attention, turn taking, and imitation. So let's talk about gestures, because the first thing I do when parents bring a child to me and they say they're not talking is I start to use sign language. And they'll say, well, why sign language? Well, because sign language, again, is a visual form of communication that the intended listener is able to see, and information is still exchanged. So gestures become very important. We use them all the time without realizing it. Come here, stop that. All of those things, they're all gestures. Yes, no. And so that's how we're able to communicate sometimes without even talking. If your child does not grasp a sense of gestures before they're able to produce words, that's a big red flag. If they can't imitate any of the gestures that you're doing, if they're not pointing, I want that, to say, I want that, those are red flags that you need to be making a note of. Joint attention. Joint attention is not just me looking at something and you looking at it too, because sometimes kids can sit beside you, but they're not having joint attention. They could be looking in the same direction you're looking, but they may be attending in their mind to something totally different. Joint attention is the fact that if I say, "Ooh, look at that puppy," your child turns and finds the puppy. Or if I have a block and I'm building blocks and I say, "Come play with me," and I build, then you stack, and I stack, then you stack, we're doing joint attention. We're attending to the same task at the same time to have an ultimate outcome. Turn taking. Turn taking is very important. If I say something, you may also hear this referred to as reciprocity. If your child does not demonstrate reciprocity, again, a big red flag. And this is even for new moms like Samil. Around 4 or 5, your child should start babbling. When they go gaga gaga ooh 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 ooh, you go gaga gaga ooh ooh back. They should, one, be attending to your face. That's joint attention. Then they should be able to imitate what you're saying, and then they also should take turns. So you say something, then I say it, then you say it, then I say it. And we've seen a commercial, I think it was about 3 years ago, the black guy became famous. They had him to make a dentist commercial. He did a video. He was watching Empire or something. His 8-month-old was sitting beside him, and he would go, yeah, you got something, and he would go, yeah, they did do that. And then the little kid would say something else, and then dad would make a statement. That's turn taking. That's reciprocity, because that's how communication flows. You have a speaker, you have a listener in each role in a conversation. Sometimes I'm speaking, sometimes I'm listening if I'm engaged in conversation. And those are all prerequisite skills to helping a child build their communication, because communication is key. Because again, I want to stress, if your child does not have these building blocks, talking is a long way off. And the last one, which I've alluded to several times, is imitation. Peekaboo. Peekaboo, I see you. Can they put their hands over their eyes and play peekaboo back? That takes in joint attention again. That takes in turn taking of reciprocity, but that also takes in imitation. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, clap. Can they clap too? Will they imitate behind you when you clap? If your child is having difficulty imitating your movements, imitating your sounds, again, that is a red flag that there is a possible delay going on or disorder with your child, and you definitely want to seek answers and seek help. So, who do I contact if I have concerns? Well, I always tell every parent, you first start with your child's pediatrician. Not all pediatricians are in tune to speech and language problems, but the majority are. I have some pediatricians that over-refer. You know, a kid can't say L sound and they're 4 years old. Well, L doesn't come in until 5 or 6, so we can't be that concerned, sir. And so I tell the parent that right now is not a time to be concerned about this speech sound. And then we have some parents who come in themselves saying, hey, I have some concerns. And we call the pediatrician and they say, well, I don't think they need speech therapy right now. Well, here's the key. You never want to wait. Early intervention is always in order, because I tell parents all the time, if your child has a gap like this, the longer you wait, the gap grows. If we're able to close the gap and it's gotten this big, we may be able to close it to here. However, if you come to me and the gap is here, we close it to here, you see we have no gap anymore. So it's very important to reach out to your child's pediatrician. Also, find your local early childhood intervention program. Every state in the United States has an early childhood intervention program. It is part of the IDEA law. And so reach out to them. It may be called different things, but underneath the title, it should say early childhood intervention. Find a local speech language pathologist in your area if you're having concerns. Also, if your child is of school age and you're having concern, talk to your child's teacher. Is this happening in class? Do you hear these sounds that he can't say? Is it difficult for him to express himself with other friends? Does he get up in front of the class and talk? If there are concerns, then you want to make the teacher aware, so that they can then begin what's called a referral, so that you can have your child tested by the school. If your child is over 3 but not yet school age, so like 3, 4, and 5, because early childhood must stop at the age of 3. So if your child is 3 but not yet school age, then look for the child find office of your local public school district. Again, every school district in the United States must have a child find office, because it comes under the IDEA law. It's called IDEA, and that's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So that every district has one. And if you have concerns, reach out, because once a child is age 3, they can no longer be serviced by ECI or early childhood intervention, and they must go over to the public schools. Again, I tell parents, we don't get hung up on labels and titles. We get hung up on getting the help that our children need so that they can flourish and grow. I want to thank you guys for taking this time to come out. I hope this information, it was just a quick snippet to help Samia launch her campaign. And if you have any questions and answers, I'll be more than happy to take them now.
So me having small children, are there any type of, I guess, shows or toys, aside from the things that are the ways I communicate? Are there any other resources that people can purchase just from maybe the Target or Walmart? Or are there any suggestions that you would give?
I have a fellow SLP on here, and she's gonna laugh because you know my answer to that is, and we have an educator on here, Sister Montgomery, I thank you for joining. She will tell you there's nothing that's going to take a place of natural parent time and energy. I'm sorry, I know it's hard, parents, but you're going to have to make the time to sit down to read, because that's what I'm going to suggest. I love toys and toys you can play with and you can engage with, but there's nothing like taking the time out, reading a book. And what I mean by read, you may say, I have a 1.5-year-old, they can't read. I tell my parents all the time, I don't care if the book is about the clown at the circus. If they want to talk about the red balloon and the big brown dog, that's what we're going to talk about, because the key is not to have them necessarily reading the words at that age. And like I said, Sister Montgomery's on here, so I'm sure she can chime in. It's not about reading the words per se. It's about giving them the opportunity to put what they see to a verbal expression and expressing themselves to be able to say dog, cat. You start out with one word for 1-year-olds labeling, then they go dog ran, cat eating, whatever, and then they're putting 2 words together as they go and progress. But if you buy toys, you want to buy those toys that that creates what we call symbolic play. So if you're doing a doll, then buy the doll, the baby doll, the bottle, all of that, because you want to make sure that they're able to symbolically show what those items are used for. So like you don't want them to take the baby bottle and then be throwing it like a ball, because it's not a ball, it's a bottle. The baby should be stuck in the bottle, and vice versa. Boys with, the fire trucks or the dump trucks, that they're actually dumping things. I don't care if they're dumping blocks, if they're dumping jacks or whatever. You want to make sure that they're using the actual items for the purpose that they were intended. And then as they get older, then can they take pretend items or non-toys like a block and pretend it's a choo-choo train, because then it becomes pretend play. And so those are all two building blocks into language development, but more so into cognitive development, because now I can see past what it was actually intended for and make it into something more meaningful. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
What does IDEA stand for? And it stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It used to be Public Law 94-142, but it went back. They revised some of the portions of the law and the name changed to IDEA. If you need more information regarding speech and language development, as well as speech therapy services, always go to www.asha.org, and that stands for the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association.